Earlier today, Emilie's kit was leaked, and I'm going to discuss those leaks with you, and I'm going to tell you my current opinions on Emilie so far. So, let's begin with their role, as we always do. Emilie is going to be a Dendro polearm character who focuses on doing primarily elemental skill damage when enemies are burning. Yeah, you heard that. Specifically when enemies are burning. Let's start with her normal attacks. They're pretty basic, and she's a sub DPS. You're not really going to use these normal attacks, at all. And as for her skill, this may take a while to explain. So, her skill spawns a turret, which will do damage once every... I have no clue yet what the interval is. And then, when enemies are burning, they will absorb a stack of aroma. When aroma hits 2 stacks, the turret will fire twice as many projectiles, and its damage will also be significantly increased. So, yeah, if you thought about using Emilie in any kind of team that isn't burning, have fun with that. As for her elemental burst, what it's going to do is it is going to spawn a turret from her skill, but at a even higher level, which is based on the scaling of her burst. It will not be able to collect any aroma. So it's just going to fire the level 3 shots, and then after 2.8 seconds, it's going to expire. I don't really know why they made her burst like this, but sure, go ahead. When this level 3 turret expires, it's going to spawn another turret based on how many aromas the pre-existing turret already had. So, if you have a turret from her skill, and they use her burst, it's going to spawn this new turret, and then after the burst is over, it's going to spawn the old turret back in. So, that's pretty interesting if you ask me. Her Ascension 1 talent is going to do a large chunk of damage when one of her skill turrets gets 2 aromas. This damage, however, is not considered skill damage, so it's not going to be buffed by things like Golden Truth. Her Ascension 4 talents is going to give all party members 85% pyro resistance, specifically towards burning damage, specifically when Emilie's turret is active. This is because burning technically does AoE damage, and when you are fighting enemies that are being burned and you're close to them, you will also take burning damage. But now we get to her exploration passive. Why are you talking about an exploration passive in a kit overview video? Well, it's pretty simple. It's because her exploration passive is not an exploration passive at all, but rather it's a goddamn damage passive. So it's going to increase Emilie's damage on enemies affected by burning by 36%, but damage towards enemies inflicted with Quicken is reduced by 90%. They essentially just killed Spread Emilie for literally no reason other than they felt like they could. So, I'm not really happy about this decision at all, but we're just gonna have to live with it. If you're still watching, you probably enjoy my content, so consider subscribing to the channel, liking the video, and maybe leaving down a comment. If you're interested in more of my content, join my Discord, or follow me on Twitter. But let's get back into Emilie. Mainly, let's talk about her signature weapon. Now, the signature weapon is going to be an interesting one because it is the first time in a grand total of almost a year that we've seen a 5-star weapon with a base attack of 608. For anyone curious, the last time was Linny's signature weapon, the First Great Magic. Her weapon has a 608 base attack with a crit rate of 33.1%. Whenever enemies are burning, Emilie gets 18% damage bonus, which stacks up to 2 times. It also gives 15% attack just passively. Now, we are yet again getting to a point where signature weapons are just unusable on characters that are not the character they were designed for. And I think this is incredibly upsetting. Imagine you're a really big fan of Emilie, and so you decide to pull for a signature weapon. But then you also get Hu Tao, and you're thinking about weapons to put on her, and then the only 5-star polearm you have literally doesn't work on her. I think that is very unfair, but it really is just direction the Hoyoverse has been taking. Navia's weapon with a crystallized-based passive, Cloran and Arlecchino with Bond of Life-based passives. We really can't do anything about it, and I will say I am pretty upset. Now, let's get into Emilie's teams. I'm gonna keep it 100% a buck. There's no real variation here. We're gonna have to play her in burning teams. And I think this is going to lead to issues because burning is not a pre-existing archetype. At least when Shiori came out, she had mono Geo teams that she fit in perfectly. And then there was Navia, which she didn't fit in perfectly, but she still fit. But Emilie doesn't really have that. So we're gonna struggle to find actual teams. I'm currently thinking about a team with Alhaitham, Emilie, Xiangling, and Bennett, but Alhaitham feels kind of wasted here. He could be doing a better job in a different team, so we're gonna have to figure out what to do there, because Emilie's damage is not high enough to class her as a main DPS. But that's enough about her teams, let's get into the Constellations. Her C1 will make it so that the damage from her elemental skill and the damage from her Ascension 1 is increased by 10%. And additionally, when nearby party members trigger burning or they do dendro damage to an enemy, an additional aroma will be generated. I think this is an okay constellation. Like, there's a very minimal damage increase, and I believe that the extra stack generation won't really be that important, but because we don't know her intervals, I can't judge. C2 will make it so when Emilie collects an aroma stack, her attack will be increased by 18%, up to 2 times. I think this is very disappointing for a C2. Just 36% attack is not even a main stat, and it's incredibly boring. I expect more from you, Hoyo. Constellation 3 is going to level up her skill by 3 levels, so not much to put there. And then the Constellation 4 is going to increase the duration of her elemental burst. Now, I think that's pretty interesting because the burst obviously has higher scaling than the skill. So it's pretty interesting that they're gonna make it so that her skill is less important and it's more focused on the burst. Really seems against her playstyle. And then Constellation 5 increases the level of said burst, and then Constellation 6 is gonna be an interesting one. So, whenever you use her skill or her ultimate, Emilie will gain an effect that lasts for 5 seconds, during which her normal charge attacks will generate aroma, and they will be converted to dendro damage. They will also get even more attack scaling. So this is pretty interesting. However, it will expire when 4 aromas are generated. This is yet again a situation where they take a sub DPS and turn them into a main DPS, which, as we've seen from characters like Farina, Yelan, and Shiori, can actually be pretty effective. But I'm gonna hold out my hopes, because we still don't really have teams. So, are you guys excited for Emilie? I really like her design, but I'm not sure if I vibe with this kit. I'm gonna have to wait for animations to judge if I like her or not. Because we don't have her intervals either, I can't say whether she'll be good or not, but her lack of a real team archetype and pre-established teams to fit in will mean that she's going to age better with time, but if she doesn't get the support she needs, she might just suffer in the long run. That's going to be all from me. Peace.